do I want to be denied?
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen, JJ here, fresh off of a plane. Got the jet lag. Just got back from Newark, New Jersey. Got to tell you, I'm going to miss all the sights and smells of Newark. Had a good time, though. Got the Sweet 16 experience. And of course, so did BYU. Did not go the way anybody hoped or expected to. But BYU had a tremendous season. A great run to get to the Sweet 16. An awesome year this year. 26-10 record. It's one of the best seasons in BYU basketball history. And I think they're just getting started. We're going to dig into that quite a bit here today. Hoping to have Jonathan Tavernari join us. Can't wait to get his thoughts on the game. One of the best three-point shooters I've ever seen. He had to be completely wowed by what we saw last night. So we'll break down what happened with BYU and what lies ahead. Could Yegor Demon come back for a sophomore year? He's open to it, apparently. That's what he told us last night in the locker room. So we'll talk about those things with BYU, fresh off their Sweet 16 appearance. We'll also go in depth on the Utah Jazz. They got another game tonight. Utah Hockey Club in action tonight as well. You can hear those games, both of them, on the various offerings we have here, KSL Sports. Alex, I don't even know which one's which tonight. You're gonna have to tell me. I've been totally in Sweet 16 mode. Where do we find the Jazz tonight? Where do we find Utah Hockey Club? And the Bees open tonight.
That's right. The Bees open tonight. They'll be in El Paso. The Utah Hockey Club is in Florida. And then the Utah Jazz is in Denver tonight.
Where can people hear all those games?
Gotcha.
That's what I'm asking.
The Jazz will be on 102 HD2, or 102.7 HD2.
There you go.
The Hockey Club will be on 97. NCAA Tournament coverage will be on 1280. And then the Bees will be streaming.
There you go. Okay, so if you're looking for any of those teams and NCAA Tournament action, you can find them on the various options that we have. 102.7 HD2 is an excellent option, especially if you are in your car, and 1160. So busy night here tonight, busy night of sports. Yesterday was a pretty rough day for sports, but we have something that coming down the pipe today that's a bit interesting. In fact, Alex, would you call this breaking news? I think we could. Let's hear that sounder. Breaking news coming in to the KSL Sports Zone studios. David Blitzer is in advanced talks to sell control stakes in Salt Lake City's two main soccer teams, according to Sportico. Real Salt Lake of Major League Soccer and Utah Royals of the NWSL. Now, who is he in talks with? According to the report, it is the Miller family. It is the LHM Group. So the LHM Group and David Blitzer are in talks around a transaction involving Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals. So that is very interesting news and makes you think and wonder what's down the road for the Miller Group, because this is another step that they're wanting to take to expand their portfolio, which they believe and hope will also include Major League Baseball down the road. But of course, that is up to Major League Baseball when they're ready to expand. So there you go. Real Salt Lake and Utah Royals. David Blitzer's in advanced talks to sell control stakes to the LHM Group, according to Sportico. All right, we've got to get to BYU and the rest of the stuff going on today. And we're going to do that with The Cut. It's brought to you by G2G Bars with all natural ingredients, no preservatives, and plenty of protein. G2G Bars are perfect for anyone who needs a tasty and nutritious boost. Let's get out to Jonathan Tavernari on BYU's run to the Sweet 16. That's The Cut at 3 o'clock.
Story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Also want to give a shout out to our friends at Trajan Wealth. Give Trajan Wealth a call today, your local financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at trajanwealth.com. It's time to go to the Zone phone now And we're going to call upon one of the greatest three-point shooters I ever witnessed. He had to have been flabbergasted by what he saw last night because that's some of the best three-point shooting I've ever seen. BYU legend Jonathan Tavernari joins us. JT, what is up?
JJ, I appreciate all of the compliments, and you're there for most of my accolades, but I got to say, my guy, I never made 10 three-pointers in the NCAA tournament, and no team I was ever a part of made 25 threes in a game. That is a whole lot of threes, man, and, I will say, if you want to lose in the NCAA tournament, you got to do it in style. And boy, was that in style last night.
You're not kidding. I mean, JT, I can't ever remember watching a team at any level, and I'm sure it's been done, but it's not just the 25 threes. The volume's impressive. It's the efficiency. To make 25 threes on 50% shooting from three, how do you beat a team when they're shooting like that?
Well, you don't. Which is, what the Warriors and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry made their livelihood on. You don't. That's the thing. Right after the first TV timeout, I tweeted and I say over under 200 points combined. I mean, that was the pace that those guys were playing for, and just to see the way that it happened. I mean, BYU was in the game. Now, the one thing I will give credit BYU. Up into about the 7-8 minute mark in the second half, BYU was always within 10, 12, 8, 9, 11. But what to me impressed the most is Florida, they would always have an answer, to what BYU did. And that answer usually was a three-pointer, which is crazy. And, I think one of the highlights of this season for BYU was the win against Kansas, where they were up almost 40 against Kansas, which is insane, right? But it is, I'm okay saying this. What BYU did to Kansas, Alabama did to BYU, but on a greater scale. Because BYU stepped up as much as they could, but man, they were 12 for 16 at a point yesterday, 16 for 23 from the field. I mean, BYU scored 88 points. JJ and Alex, let me ask you guys this: how many times did you have a team score 88 points and you go, "Geez, those guys got ran off the floor"? And that's what happened last night with BYU. And, again, if you want to lose it, you want to do it in style. And, I think BYU, tried to the best of their abilities to make the best of a situation, and they did. But unfortunately, they ran into an all-time performance, against Alabama.
Absolutely, and you got to give Alabama credit for that. And when a team plays like that, they deserve to move on. And that's a team that could, honestly – I mean, if they could win the whole dang thing if they're going to play like that. I can't see them keeping up that momentum. I think Mark Spears was he was like 9 of 40 going into the game previously. Like, he was really struggling from three, and to come out and shoot like that was just insane. I'm sure BYU tried a lot of different things, tried some adjustments. JT, for people who haven't played a lot of basketball, what are some of the things that a team needs to do or try to do to defend the three-point line? What could BYU have done maybe that they didn't, or what should they have tried?
So I think there's two parts to this question. The first one is, if you remember watching the game, one of the things that Kevin Young had the team doing was going under the screens when Alabama was playing the pick and roll. And that was to force Alabama to shoot threes. Because to your point, they hadn't shot the ball extremely well this season. And, it was just one of those nights, and they built confidence. But again, BYU was hanging with them for most of the game. For about 30 minutes, BYU was in the game, right? And then obviously afterwards, they just ran with it. But then if you go and rewatch the game, I certainly have. The shots that Alabama was taking, it's not like they were just shooting, three-pointers with their feet set and wide open looks. They were shooting contested threes. And they were also from very far away. People will say, oh, that's from the NBA range, Jimmer range. But yeah, it was very far away. And so, again, in sports, you usually in a game, and you know this better than I, JJ, you've heard from multiple coaches that will say, those guys didn't win the game, we lost the game. And it happens sometimes, right, where you just gave up, you just lose a game that you should have won. I don't think BYU wins that game last night unless Alabama doesn't make, another handful of threes, maybe, 7, 8 threes. Alabama played a really special game last night. Seeing them from a year ago, it is difficult not to go, wowzers. They are in a very different spot. And so it's one of those things that it's, a very special performance. And, BYU has nothing to be ashamed of. The third time in program history that they go to the Sweet 16. Kevin Young's first year, he does this. A lot of those players, I got to go to the NCAA Tournament every year. I never made it to the Sweet 16. And so, those guys, they don't have a single thing to hang their heads on. Amazing group of kids. And, if Kevin Young was able to put this roster together with a couple of weeks of full-time work while, coaching for the Phoenix Suns, can you imagine what this guy is going to do with a full-off season on his hands?
Yeah, it would be I can't wait to find out. And what he did year one was pretty impressive because, earlier in the season, you see, JT, that he was in this transition period where he's trying to figure out the college game. Right, I don't think anybody doubted that he wasn't capable or he wasn't a great coach. I mean, he could be the Brooklyn Nets head coach right now. I mean, the guy is an elite coach. He has had a chance to be head coach in the NBA, but you knew it would take time when you come down to the college level to figure out the college game, and I feel like he did. Now that he's got a whole off season, yeah, I think that there's no doubt that he could really take things to another level as a head coach, and I think the program could also take things to another level with recruiting. I'm not sure where they're at. I know you're pretty tied in. You know what's going on there. How excited are you about what it lies ahead next season, especially when you hear, I don't know, Yegor, I can't imagine, JT, he doesn't go to the lottery, but at least he's keeping the door open of coming back and playing with AJ. He talked to us in the locker room last night about it. He's obviously thinking about that. But what do you expect from this team next year after what you saw this season? And who knows what the personnel looks like, but they're obviously going to have a lot of talent.
Yeah, so I will say this. I don't want to get – I know Yegor really well. I've had some conversations with him about this. I don't think it's my place to share anything of what's going to happen and whatnot. That wouldn't be correct. But what I will say is, he is in a very unique position. He loves BYU. His heart is in Provo. I don't doubt that this is going to be someone who often comes back to BYU to be around the program, to be around everybody, right? But I think from a personnel standpoint, it's going to be a very interesting situation. I mean, what do you do with Richie Saunders? Is he going to go and try his luck at the draft and try to be like a Dalton Connect? Or does he come back to BYU for a potential massive payday, right? A potential $1 million or, somewhere in that range from NIL money. And what about Kenan Catchings? What does he do? Does he transfer? Does he stay? And you saw the mood in the locker room, JJ. And I got to tell you, I as a player, as someone that had to do this that got to do this for a living, completely understand Kenan's feelings. He wants to play. You're a competitor. It's difficult to not play. And so, but then what do you do with Dawson, who only improved as the season goes on? And what about Dallin Hall if Yegor comes back? Is Dallin willing to take, a back seat?
Again?
And, again, correct. And so a lot of conversations. What about Brody Kozlowski and Mihailo? What do you do in that situation? And, and then you have, Xavion and AJ coming back. And so as you look at all of this, and we haven't even talked about Elijah Crawford. JJ, you've been covering BYU for a very long time. At any other year in program history, Elijah Crawford and Brody Kozlowski as ESPN top 75 recruits, both of them, they would have been the talk of the town last year. And
they would have got a lot of minutes too.
Right. And so as you look at all of this, it's going to be a very interesting offseason. I know a few things that are going to happen. We're going to have to let it play it out. But it's, again, right, as you look at it from a BYU fan perspective, how do you not see everything Kevin Young did and say, in Kevin Young we trust, and whatever he decides to do, it will be the best thing for the program.
Well, and Kevin Young was asked about the resources that BYU has this week at the tournament, and he gave a really good answer, and I'll kind of sum it up and try to paraphrase it, but he talked about how the donors and all this NIL stuff is just a starting point for the program, that you got to have that stuff just to be able to compete, and then from there it's about the players and the coaches and the administration, all those things making it work and making it happen. But if you don't even have those resources, you can't compete in today's college basketball. But BYU does, JT. And so now they're entering – the transfer portal's open right now. You're going to see more kids go in as more NCAA tournament teams drop. How aggressive does BYU decide to get in the transfer portal this offseason, knowing that we were in the Sweet 16 with this group? What if we add one or two more guys to AJ coming? And you're going to have guys that want to play with AJ. How tempted will BYU be to use the resources they have to go out in the portal and get a veteran like a Mark Sears that used to play at Ohio, and then you see what he does for Alabama? There's going to be guys like that. They're going to be out there.
Well, and I think that's where, again, right, Kevin Young defers all the credit to everybody. He's amazing. But then at that point, Kevin Young and his staff becomes the secret sauce, which is not so secret because, they can go to any recruit and says, look, we got the NIL money. Look how I helped Richie Saunders develop. Because it's true. I mean, JJ, I shared this with you and Alex one of the other times I was in about Richie Saunders and just having an incredible work ethic and spend a lot of time in the gym. You know what I mean? And so but the one thing that I will say is Kevin Young had to direct them in doing that. And so for him to be able to do that and go to the portal and say, look how I developed Richie Saunders. With a lottery pick, he was our best player. He led us in scoring. And so imagine what I can do with you, with your level of talent. Saying this to a recruit along with, let me get KD on the phone. Let me get Chris Paul on the phone. Let me get Devin Booker on the phone. Let me get Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, and the other point guard. I forgot his name. Tyrese Maxey from the Sixers. Let me get these guys on the phone, and you can ask them how I am. And so BYU, the foundation, I think Dawson said something correct yesterday after the game. The foundation that it was laid by this team, I have a hard time believing that, BYU basketball is not going to keep improving from here because of everything that's in place for them to succeed.
Last one for you, JT. This is not even like individual personnel, but just overall as you're looking at this team, the strengths and weaknesses they had this season. What are some things that you saw from this team that they need to improve on moving forward to get over the hump and get past the Sweet 16 mark, which was extraordinary, by the way. But I think that there is a bar that they're trying to raise in Provo, and they would like to go further than that and get to that first Final Four. What are those things that they're missing?
I'll probably say on the guard, and I don't know how you can possibly put this into a term, but I would say, JJ, the one thing that they lack was defensively being able to keep up with fast point guards. I think they struggled with that a lot. I look at the games that they lost to Houston, Texas Tech, and to Alabama. It was because of guard play. And now, obviously Yegor is one of a generational player, but being able to guard those types of really quick, small guards, that was a struggle for BYU this year. Now, I will say this. I've seen Elijah Crawford play not only when he was in high school, but also live. Elijah very much could have hung with those guys. The problem is, who are you going to play Elijah over? Are you going to play over Dallin, or are you going to play him over Yegor? And so, But I would say that was definitely a weakness that BYU had. And then the other one will possibly be something that they improved throughout the year, but is that something they can improve overall, which is executing, right? The last 8 weeks, BYU has executed, as good as any team in the country. But at the beginning of the season, that was a struggle. And so can Kevin Young be consistent with that? And, you're talking about personnel, JJ. I don't want to shy away from having these difficult conversations. Yes, I'm a BYU guy. I'm involved with all of these coaches, administrators, players. I'm very close to them. But I'm not making final decisions. So I think, and also because, I work as an analyst, I can bring these things up. Don't shy away from the personnel conversation, JJ, because, last thing that I'll share with you is, let's just say that Jaeger does come back and so does Richie. Dallin, Jaeger, Elijah Crawford, that's 3 point guards. And then you have Richie, AJ, Cannon, and Cannon, that's 6. And then you have Mihailo 7, Brody 8, and you have Keba 9. And then you have Dawson 10. They have, that's 10 guys. I already told you. And then you have Xavion. That's 11 guys.
Yeah.
So
where are the minutes coming from?
And so to me, I don't want to, not necessarily mentioning weaknesses or strengths. To me, the main issue of the offseason is going to be who the heck is going to be a BYU Cougar next year? Because I just mentioned to you 11 guys who are all worthy of minutes in a college team, but then there's also the portal. And so how do you make sense of all of that? I am grateful I'm not Kevin Young because obviously I love these guys. I think they're all great kids. But he's going to have to make some difficult decisions this summer.
Yeah, he is. But I can tell you this. We all know who the best player on the team is going to be next year. Let the A.J. DeBonsa era begin at BYU. JT, that's got to be exciting as an alumni to know that you're going to have the number one player in the country putting on BYU blue next year. It's going to be another great team, and I'm sure that you really enjoyed this ride as well, being an alumni and watching this up close and personal with the relationship you have with those guys. Thanks so much, JT, for coming on and sharing your insight throughout the season. We really appreciate it. And the offseason, you're right, it's going to be really fascinating. And when something happens that's interesting, we'll definitely have you back on the show to discuss it, JT. Thanks so much.
I appreciate having me, and I know it's been a blast connecting with you and Alex doing the show. And whenever you guys need me, you know where to follow. And always and forever, go Cougs.
There you go. That's Jonathan Tavernari right here on JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yes, Kevin Young has some very difficult decisions to make, but that's a good place to be in when you've got that much talent and you have the number one player in the country coming in. I think you'd rather have that problem than not having enough talent. So we'll see what he decides to do and sorts all of that out. But BYU is going to be really good once again next season. So A.J. DeBonsa coming to BYU, and the next time you see BYU in the court, he will be wearing royal blue. Win big every Wednesday on the KSL Sports Zone with Win Ticket Wednesday. This Wednesday, win tickets to Volbeat, July 19th at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Don't miss Volbeat's greatest of all tours worldwide with special guests Hailstorm and The Ghost Inside. Get tickets now at livenation.com or listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. All right, when we come back, Utah Jazz. They didn't get the win last night against the Rockets, but there were some positive things. We'll discuss that and look ahead. And also we'll be talking about the Utah Hockey Club. Not a good night for them last night either. So we'll sort this all out. They're back in action tonight. Get to put that behind them, get back on the court tonight, and give it their best, and the ice, I should say. So on games that you can hear on the KSL Sports Zone family of stations. We'll be right back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in, JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We have a 1-hour show today because we're going to take you up to pregame for the Utah Hockey Club at 4 o'clock. They're taking on the Florida Panthers tonight at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules, First Federal Credit Union, and Beehive Meals. Someone's calling into the show from a beach right now.
Oh, quit it.
What do we got?
Come on.
Who's this?
Listen, I assumed that I tried to wave at you on your airplane as mine went past you. So we swapped back to you were the East Coast time zone for a couple of days, and now I'm going to be there for this one.
Yeah,
so
now you're feeling that little bit of jet lag today. You missing that
Oh my
couple hours of sleep?
You know how it is. Like, you can't just have it's one thing to have a red eye. It's another to have a red eye, and there's a guy in the aisle next to you whose kid is throwing up.
Oh.
And yeah. There was definitely some of that going on. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I'm working on about 5 hours. I'm working on about 5 minutes of sleep here, bro.
Wah, you're at the beach. Wah.
I'm not at the beach. I will be at the beach as soon as this phone call's over. But
a beach or a golf course? Wah.
No, listen, guess what? I'm doing official business tonight. I'm going to be at the Utah Hockey Club versus the Florida Panthers.
Ooh, you got tickets.
Got a different barn situation. So we got some tickets.
Well, that'll be fun.
Me and a couple of the Kirry boys are going to go. I didn't know. I told them not to wear their Utah hockey gear.
Why not?
After last night's performance, just because I don't want to get the heckles from the Stanley Cup champs out there. Or at the very least, I don't know if the heckles are worse, JJ, or the ones where people kind of pat you on the head and go, I think it's cute. You guys are having a nice little time out there in Utah.
It's going to be real cute when Utah goes in there and kicks their butt tonight.
Okay.
They're not going to lose 8-0. I promise you that.
Well, can you promise me that? Because in the end, it's a back-to-back. This team is arguably much more difficult than that Lightning team they played last night. And I get it. It was a little bit of a buzzsaw. It wasn't a good situation, but I think that you get a tip of what's going on with Utah Hockey Club, because they recalled their goalie now from the Roadrunners. Villalta is going to come join the club. I don't think it's going to be tonight. Maybe not. I don't think they're going to fly him out and do this emergency situation. But I think what you've got is you've got to babysit a little bit of that situation. You've got Veggie, who you've extended, and you want to make sure he's all right. And you don't want to have he and Stauber sharing just absolute beatdowns. Which is what happened a couple of times now in the past 12 days. And so,
yeah, look, they're mathematically eligible, Alex, but it's like a 0.3% chance of getting a playoff spot.
It got worse. Honestly,
we're reaching the point where it's time to kind of like go into off-season mode.
With every, there's this vibe where we kind of go, what are the Jazz doing again? I don't know. Shut some people down with like plantar fasciitis, surgeries here and there, and then and shut her down. And it's not to do anything except for just to say, hey, look, and again, what are there, 9, 10 games left, 11 games left? I don't know, but you're going to go here in Florida.
Exactly,
you're going to go back to Chicago. You're going to go back to Chicago on the way back to Utah again. You get 5 at home, then you get 3 on the road to lock it out. And so I think that, tonight, I don't know what the expectations are. You might get a Florida Panthers team who, doesn't necessarily have to put the foot on the gas. I think that Tampa Bay wanted to, based off of what happened in Salt Lake last week. But, maybe just to kind of give their old buddy Sergachev a little like, hey, you guys got us last week, but we're going to kind of remind you guys who some of the best teams are out here.
Well,
and of course it's in Florida.
I'm looking at the race right now in the Atlantic Division, and it's the Leafs are on top with 90, but Florida and Tampa are tied with 89 points. And getting that number one, as opposed to having to have a Florida versus Tampa Bay playoff series. For sure. The Lightning and Panthers neither team wants that in the first round.
No, and on top of it, I think that until proven otherwise, like the Leafs are the team who can't get it done right now in the playoffs versus these two teams who, a semi-recent two-timer, Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay, and then you've got, of course, the cup holders right now in Florida. And so you've got these two teams who are like, hey, we kind of don't really care who you give us, but, we do want to see a road to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, maybe be a little bit easier than having to play, your cross-state rival. But what's wild is that here in Florida, like they freaking love their hockey teams, and we're kind of getting a vibe of what that looks like now. But I mean, these are two communities between the Panthers and, Panthers are the South Florida deal, and then you got Tampa Bay, obviously the inside Gulf area there. So two different geographical regions with totally different fan bases and totally rabid fan bases. And so if there's a way to kind of copy off of how to develop youth programs and to kind of get a team fired up, look no further than Florida. Like we're looking at Florida and Dallas, and all these places that you would never think that a hockey team could make it work. And these are the people who are some of the most difficult to beat, throw in Vegas and, the typical standard, Toronto's and Montreal's and all these other teams that, historically we always watched growing up who were really, really difficult. We haven't had a Canadian champion. Hate to remind our friends up north so often, but what has it been since 1993?
Yeah.
And so it's, you're going 30 plus years of no Canadian Stanley Cup champion, franchise. And so, this is kind of the new standard, but I'm interested to see what the vibe is in another barn, just because now we've had a handful of times to be able to experience the hockey club in Salt Lake City. I've watched a lot of other NHL games in a lot of other places, but never with the Utah Hockey Club wearing the whites on the road and taking care of business there. So I'm interested to see what the vibe is like and what other people say about this Utah Hockey Club and how this whole thing goes down tonight here in Florida.
You missed the first segment, didn't get a chance to let you share your thoughts on BYU season coming to an end last night, what you saw last night, and what you're looking to head to now in this offseason.
Yeah, it was a difficult day yesterday for the Jazz losing by double digits to the Rockets. Never like losing to the Rockets like that.
Yeah, but that was kind of a good thing.
But we know what the call was, but the 8-0 loss almost felt worse than the BYU just record-setting pace that Alabama was doing. What were you going to do? I think at some point we're watching that game, we go, no, just let them shoot. They're not going to keep hitting these. And by the end of the night, we all look like idiots because, to break the record the way that they did, a 35-year-old record that Loyola Marymount, set in 1990, and then to beat it by 3 or 4 threes after everything was said and done.
They obliterated the record.
And to have 113 points I was telling Alex, our producer, before the show, I was like, look, 113 points that's what BYU puts up against teams like Westminster. No offense to our buddies in Westminster.
Why are the Griffins catching strays?
But you see what I'm saying? Like BYU's record-setting 3-point shooting and 100-point games are usually reserved for Division II, Division III teams, right? Like that in the non-conference schedule, you don't see performances like that. Not just in the NCAA tournament very often, but also in the Sweet 16, certainly not. So BYU licks its wounds and figures it out. I think this year was a great opportunity. It was an awesome experience. I was listening to JT and you guys chop it up there, and I thought, man, I couldn't. When JT started naming off the possibility of what the roster looks like, and obviously he's got some stuff up his sleeve that he's hearing, that maybe he's privy to as an alum and a guy who knows a lot of these dudes. But when you hear about what the possibilities could be for a roster, what an amazing difficult set of decisions that Kevin Young is going to have to make, and some of these young men are going to have to make. But I don't know if you see all that. I mean.
Not everybody can stay. Not everybody can stay, and that's the hard part.
There's no way if you're a lottery guy, if Yegor Demon still, kind of tests out as that top 7, top 8, top 9 pick, like you can't refuse that.
He put some good film on in the tournament. He was great.
Oh, for sure.
He was great. For sure.
And everybody's going to look at that, and it's going to be tough because when you list off all those dudes and then you're asking them to make way for the best player in the land, it's a good problem to have. It's also a very complicated problem to have that Kevin Young's going to have to deal with, but that's why you pay him the big bucks, because he's going to make some really, really tough decisions, and some of these kids are going to have to make some tough decisions. I think there's going to be a lot of names that you're not going to see back at BYU, and not just for the moving on sake, but some people are going to move into the portal and go, I think I can get money over here, or I can get better minutes over here. And so all those things will get figured out, but I think you get the good picture that they're going to be able to put together a roster, and maybe it takes a month and a half. I think BYU fans will go, yeah, it's fine. They did this last year. They'll have to figure this thing out, and whatever roster you put together is going to have to gel at some point, and we'll see. I think this new group set the bar in a very, very different way than we're used to seeing with BYU. So I'm interested to see what they do with it the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, it should be a great offseason for them, and I think we're going to see an arms race here in this market. I think the University of Utah is serious about basketball at this point with bringing on Alex Jensen, and I think they're going to try to make a statement. They're trying to make it with their hires. Andre Miller's season ends after this week. I think you could see some news on that coming up next week. A lot of things going on with them as well, so you're seeing college basketball in this state become a big focus where money is being spent. So it's just kind of exciting as a sports fan to see that happening. Because we were reminded, Alex, just how much fun the NCAA tournament is when we have teams here in the state involved. And I'm going to include Utah State in this as well. I think that that's going to continue to grow with Jared Calhoun now there. They're going to have some stability that they haven't had. And I think there's going to be even more investment there and good players. So very exciting what's happening with college basketball in the state. And it's just going to continue to get better and better. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the Utah Hockey Club and the Utah Jazz, both in action tonight, right here on the KSL Sports Zone family of channels. We'll have more next. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is a Utah Hockey Club at 50 update on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Andre Tourney talks about the team's performance in an 8-0 loss to the Lightning.
It's really disappointing the way we came out. Didn't win enough battle, didn't get on the inside. You play against a good team like that, you need to be ready to fight. And in our situation, it's disappointing, and it's everybody's in the same boat. We're all together, coaches, player. We all have to look ourselves in the mirror. That's unacceptable. Just have to look ourselves in the mirror and make sure we have a chance to redeem ourselves.
Utah Hockey Club at 50 updates are brought to you by ReadyWise. Be wise, be ready, your trusted partner in emergency preparedness. Utah Hockey Club next on JJ and Alex 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on the Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Spring fever spreading right now. Paris RV has the best selection, lowest prices of the year. Check them out at parisrv.com. We got 20 seconds. Alex, your final thoughts on this Friday.
was in Florida tonight, man. I'm excited to see what the Utah Hockey Club looks like on the road, how they bounce back against this Florida Panthers team, man. Have fun next week, dude.
Okay. I hope you throw a rat out on the ice tonight, even though you don't want them to win. So
is that going to be our thing?
That.
Is that going to be our thing now?
I don't know. We got to find something here in Utah. All right, hockey's next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.